Most people grow up believing the world is fair. They're told that if they work hard, follow the rules, and stay honest, life will reward them. That belief feels comforting. It feels structured, predictable, safe. But as time passes, reality starts showing cracks in that idea. The truth is, the world doesn't operate on fairness. It operates on power, timing, and perception. From childhood, society gives people a script. Go to school, get good grades, find a stable job, build a life, retire someday. On the surface, it sounds reasonable, but very few ever stop to ask a deeper question. Who wrote this script in the first place? Because once you step outside of it, you start noticing something unsettling. The system wasn't designed equally for everyone. In the real world, information is more valuable than money. Money can buy comfort, but information can control outcomes. The people who understand how systems work, financial systems, media systems, political systems, are usually the ones shaping reality, not reacting to it. Meanwhile, most people only see the version of reality that is presented to them. Perception is the strongest currency on earth. If you can shape what people believe, you can shape how they behave. Entire industries exist just to influence perception. Advertising, public relations, political messaging, none of these are accidents. They are carefully engineered tools designed to guide attention, shape opinion, and direct emotion. The average person thinks they're making independent choices, but many of those choices were influenced long before they were even aware they were deciding. One of the biggest realities about the world is this: success and truth are not the same thing. The most visible voices aren't always the most honest ones. Often, they're simply the loudest, the most entertaining, or the most strategic. Attention doesn't reward truth, it rewards stimulation. And in a world driven by screens, stimulation spreads faster than facts. Hi. History quietly proves that power rarely disappears. It usually just changes hands. Empires fall, governments change, leaders come and go, but influence never really vanishes. It shifts, it adapts, it hides behind new faces and new narratives. That's why every generation believes it's living in a completely new world, when in reality it's often just seeing an updated version of the same old patterns. Another truth most people eventually discover is that the world doesn't always reward effort immediately. Two people can work equally hard, yet only one succeeds. That doesn't always mean one deserved it more. Sometimes it's timing, sometimes connections, sometimes luck. The uncomfortable reality is that effort is only one piece of a much larger equation. People also assume powerful individuals have everything figured out. But power doesn't remove fear. It just changes what someone is afraid of. The higher someone climbs, the more they have to lose. Status creates pressure. Influence creates enemies. And control creates paranoia. From the outside, power looks like freedom. From the inside, it often feels like a cage. The world is full of contradictions. People want honesty, but reward performance. They want authenticity, but follow illusion. They want truth, but prefer comfort. That contradiction is what keeps the system running. Because if everyone suddenly demanded absolute truth at all times, many structures people depend on would collapse overnight. And that leads to one of the deepest realities of all. Most people don't actually want the full truth. Not because they're weak, but because truth can be heavy. It can challenge identity, beliefs, and security. Comfort, on the other hand, asks for nothing. It simply lets people continue believing what feels right. There are three invisible forces shaping the world every single day: narrative, influence, and timing. Narrative decides what people believe. Influence decides what people support. Timing decides who wins. When someone understands how these three forces interact, they stop seeing the world as random. They start seeing patterns. The moment a person begins to see those patterns, the world never looks the same again. Once someone begins to see the patterns behind how the world works, they also start noticing something else. Most people are too distracted to notice them. Distraction is one of the oldest and most effective tools ever used. Not because entertainment is bad, but because constant stimulation keeps minds busy and questions quiet. A distracted population is predictable. A thinking population is powerful. Modern life is filled with noise. Notifications, headlines, trends, arguments, opinions. Information moves so fast that people rarely have time to pause and analyze it. Instead of thinking deeply, they react instantly. And reaction is easier to control than reflection. When people react emotionally, they're easier to influence. When they reflect logically, they become harder to manipulate. Another reality of the world is that attention is limited. Every human only has so much focus each day, so wherever attention goes, power follows. That's why industries compete for it. Platforms compete for it. Influencers compete for it. Because whoever controls attention controls direction. And whoever controls direction shapes outcomes. Many assume control looks obvious, like someone giving orders. But in reality, control is usually subtle. It doesn't force, it suggests. It doesn't demand, it nudges. The most powerful systems don't tell people what to think. They guide them toward thinking it was their own idea. That's the highest level of influence. When people defend a belief they never realized was planted. There's also a hidden truth about opportunity. People often think opportunity appears randomly, but it usually appears where preparation meets timing. Two people can stand in the same place, yet only one recognizes the chance in front of them. The difference isn't luck, it's awareness. Awareness changes everything. It turns obstacles into signals and mistakes into lessons. The world also runs on perception of value. Something is only valuable because people agree it is. Money has value because society believes it does. Status has value because culture assigns it importance. Trends have value because enough people decide to follow them. In other words, value is often a shared illusion, powerful, but still constructed. One of the hardest realities to accept is that fairness isn't guaranteed. The world isn't a courtroom where everything is judged instantly and correctly. Sometimes the wrong people win. Sometimes the right people lose. But over long periods of time, patterns tend to correct themselves. Not always perfectly, not always quickly, but often eventually. Time is the one force no system can permanently overpower. People also misunderstand confidence. They assume confident individuals have no doubt. In truth, most confident people simply learned how to act despite doubt. The world rewards action more than certainty. Many opportunities are claimed by those who move first, not those who think the longest. Hesitation can be more limiting than failure. Another truth hidden in plain sight is that fear drives more decisions than logic. Fear of missing out, fear of losing status, fear of being wrong, fear of being judged. Entire markets and movements have been built on fear alone. Because fear is persuasive. It pushes people to act quickly, and quick decisions rarely involve deep analysis. The irony is that while fear controls many, curiosity frees others. Curious people question narratives. They look deeper. They compare sources. They notice inconsistencies. And once someone becomes curious about how the world really works, it becomes almost impossible for them to return to blind acceptance. Yet awareness comes with a price. The more clearly someone sees reality, the less they can pretend not to see it. Illusions become obvious. Manipulation becomes noticeable. Patterns become predictable. That awareness can feel isolating at first, because most people still operate inside the illusion. But it also becomes empowering, because understanding the system means you're no longer completely controlled by it. And that's when a person reaches a turning point. They can either ignore what they see and go back to comfort, or they can keep looking deeper, knowing that every layer of reality they uncover will change how they see the world and themselves forever. At some point, everyone who keeps questioning the world reaches a realization that changes everything. Reality is not just something you live in. It's something you interpret. Two people can witness the exact same event and walk away with completely different conclusions. Not because one is lying, but because perception filters everything. Experience, upbringing, culture, fears, and desires all shape how reality appears to each individual. That's why certainty can be dangerous. The more certain someone is that they already understand everything, the less open they become to learning anything new. The world doesn't stay still, and truth doesn't always stay where you first found it. It shifts as knowledge grows. People who adapt to new information tend to move forward. People who cling to old assumptions often feel like the world is leaving them behind. One of the deeper realities about life is that systems don't change quickly, people do. Institutions, structures, and traditions are designed to resist sudden change. They're built for stability, not speed. But individuals can transform in a single decision. A new mindset, a new perspective, or a single moment of clarity can redirect an entire life path. That's why real change in the world almost always starts at the individual level before it ever appears on a global scale. Another hidden truth is that influence is rarely about force. Force can control behavior for a short time, but influence can change behavior for years. Force creates resistance. Influence creates agreement. The most effective leaders, thinkers, and strategists in history understood this difference. They didn't just command people, they convinced them. The world also runs on invisible hierarchies. Not just economic ones, but social, intellectual, and psychological hierarchies. Some people lead conversations. Some follow them. Some set trends. Others adopt them. Some question narratives. Others repeat them. These layers exist in every society, every industry, and every community, even when no one openly acknowledges them. Most people spend their lives trying to climb visible ladders, career titles, income levels, recognition. But the most powerful ladder is invisible, understanding. When someone truly understands how the world works, they stop chasing every opportunity and start choosing the right ones. They stop reacting to events and start anticipating them. They stop feeling controlled and start feeling prepared. There's also a silent rule that shapes reality. What people believe often matters more than what is true. Belief can move markets, start movements, and shape history. Entire nations have acted based on shared beliefs, whether accurate or not. Because collective belief is one of the strongest forces humans have ever created. When enough people believe something, it begins to function as reality in practical terms. Time reveals truths that noise hides. In the moment, events can feel chaotic and confusing. But with distance, patterns appear. Motives become clearer. Consequences become visible. That's why patience is such a powerful advantage. People who wait, observe, and analyze often understand situations far better than those who rush to judgment. Another reality most don't notice is how strongly environment shapes behavior. Place a person in a supportive environment, and they often thrive. Put the same person in a toxic environment, and they struggle. Talent matters, effort matters, but environment quietly multiplies or reduces both. The world rarely tells people this, because it prefers simple explanations. But reality is rarely simple. Many people think control comes from holding power over others. But the deepest form of control is mastering yourself. Emotions, impulses, reactions, when these are controlled, outside manipulation becomes much harder. A calm mind is difficult to influence. A disciplined person is difficult to distract. Self-mastery doesn't make someone perfect, but it makes them resilient. And resilience is one of the rarest traits in the world. Not because people are weak, but because life is unpredictable. Plans fail. Expectations break. Circumstances change. The individuals who rise again after setbacks are usually the ones who understand a fundamental truth. Failure isn't the opposite of success. It's part of it. The world doesn't reward perfection. It rewards persistence. Eventually, those who keep observing reality long enough notice something surprising. The world isn't controlled by a single hidden force or secret group. It's shaped by countless decisions made every day by millions of people, each acting on what they believe is right, necessary, or beneficial. Reality is not a single plan. It's the result of many competing intentions unfolding at once. That realization changes how a person sees everything. Instead of searching for one mastermind behind events, they begin to see networks of influence, layers of cause and effect, and chains of decisions stretching far into the past. The world starts to look less like a mystery and more like a system. And once someone starts seeing the world as a system, they begin to understand the most important reality of all. Systems can be studied, understood, and eventually navigated. When someone begins to see the world as a system instead of a mystery, their perspective shifts in a powerful way. They stop asking, "Why is this happening to me?" and start asking, "How does this work?" That small change in thinking separates people who feel trapped by life from those who learn how to move within it. Because systems, no matter how complex they seem, always follow patterns. And patterns can be learned. One of the most overlooked realities of the world is that most outcomes are not sudden. They are built gradually. Success looks instant from the outside, but it is usually the result of years of unseen preparation. Failure also appears sudden, yet it often comes from small ignored problems stacking up over time. The world runs on accumulation, not explosions. Little choices, repeated daily, shape destinies more than dramatic moments ever could. People often believe that intelligence alone determines success, but observation shows something different. Awareness, adaptability, and emotional control often matter more than raw intelligence. A brilliant person who can't adapt gets stuck. An average person who adjusts quickly keeps moving forward. The world rewards those who respond well to change, not those who resist it. Change is one of the few guarantees in reality. Economies shift. Technology evolves. Cultures transform. Ideas that once seemed permanent eventually fade, replaced by new ones. Those who accept change as natural usually navigate life more smoothly. Those who fight it often feel like everything around them is falling apart. In truth, nothing is falling apart. It's rearranging. Another hidden layer of reality is that most limits people believe in are psychological before they are physical. Doubt, fear, and hesitation stop more progress than actual obstacles. Many doors in life are never locked. People just assume they are. The world rarely announces opportunities loudly. Most of them appear quietly, disguised as risk or uncertainty. There is also a paradox at the center of human life. People want control, but they live in uncertainty. No one can predict everything. No one can guarantee outcomes. And yet, the need for certainty drives many decisions. That's why promises, predictions, and confident voices attract attention. They offer something people crave, the feeling of knowing what comes next. But reality doesn't promise certainty. It promises possibility. The deeper someone studies the world, the more they realize how much of it runs on incentives. People respond to rewards and consequences. Systems respond to pressure and demand. Markets respond to behavior. Understanding incentives is like seeing the hidden engine behind actions. When you know what someone gains or loses from a situation, you start to understand why they act the way they do. Another truth is that not everything important is visible. Some of the strongest forces shaping lives are invisible: trust, reputation, timing, relationships. You can't always measure them, but they can determine outcomes more than numbers can. A good reputation can open doors that money can't. The right timing can achieve results effort alone cannot. Many people search for a single moment that will change everything: one opportunity, one decision, one breakthrough. But reality is more subtle. Life usually changes through sequences, not moments. A conversation leads to an idea. The idea leads to action. The action leads to connection. And the connection leads to opportunity. What looks like luck is often just a chain reaction that started long before anyone noticed it. There's also a quiet law of reality that few talk about. Attention shapes experience. Whatever someone focuses on most begins to define how they see the world. If they focus on problems, they see obstacles everywhere. If they focus on possibilities, they start noticing chances others miss. The external world may be the same, but perception makes it feel completely different. Once someone begins to feel like they understand the map of the world, a new realization appears. Understanding doesn't simplify reality, it deepens it. The more clearly a person sees how things work, the more they notice how many layers still remain unseen. Knowledge doesn't end curiosity. It expands it. Because every answer uncovers new questions, and every pattern reveals another pattern hiding behind it. Most people spend their lives reacting to events. Something happens, and they respond. But the ones who truly understand reality start predicting instead of reacting. They notice early signals, small shifts, subtle changes in tone, behavior, or direction. These signs often appear long before major events unfold. To most people, they look insignificant. To an observer, they look like warnings or opportunities. The world rarely announces turning points loudly. Major changes often begin quietly, almost invisibly. A new idea spreads slowly. A new technology appears unnoticed. A new mindset takes root in a small group. Then, suddenly, it feels like everything changed overnight. But nothing actually changed overnight. People just didn't notice the gradual buildup. There is also a powerful truth about human nature. People don't always resist change because it's wrong. They resist it because it's unfamiliar. Familiarity feels safe, even when it's limiting. The unknown feels risky, even when it holds possibility. That's why progress almost always looks strange at first. Every breakthrough once seemed unrealistic until it became normal. Another reality hiding in plain sight is that the world rewards clarity. People who can think clearly, speak clearly, and act clearly often move further than those with more talent but less focus. Clarity cuts through confusion. It turns complex situations into understandable ones. And in a world filled with noise, clarity stands out like a signal in static. Many assume that power belongs only to those at the top, but influence exists at every level. A conversation can change a perspective can change a decision can change a life, and a changed life can influence many others. Power doesn't always move from top to bottom. Sometimes it spreads outward like ripples in water, starting from a single point. There's also a hidden law of reality that few recognize. Energy flows where attention goes. Whatever people consistently focus on grows in importance in their lives. Focus on problems, and problems multiply. Focus on solutions, and solutions appear. The external world may not change immediately, but perception does, and perception shapes action. Action shapes outcomes. One of the most misunderstood truths about the world is that difficulty is not always a sign something is wrong. Often, difficulty is evidence that something meaningful is happening. Growth rarely feels comfortable. Progress rarely feels easy. The moments that challenge people the most are often the moments shaping them the most. Over time, people who observe deeply begin to see beyond appearances. They stop judging situations only by how they look on the surface. Instead, they ask what forces might be operating underneath. Because reality often hides its true causes. What seems like coincidence may be preparation. What seems like failure may be redirection. What seems like delay may be timing. Another surprising pattern emerges when someone studies life long enough. Most breakthroughs happen after frustration, not before it. Frustration pushes people to rethink, redesign, and reattempt. Without it, many would stop too early. In that way, frustration is not just an obstacle. It's a signal that growth is near. There's a quiet strength and patience that the fast-moving world often overlooks. People rush because they think speed guarantees success. But speed without direction leads nowhere. Patience, on the other hand, allows direction to become clear. Those who combine patience with awareness often move slower at first, but further in the long run. Eventually, a person who continues observing reality starts to understand something profound. The world is not testing them. It's revealing them. Situations don't create character as much as they expose it. Pressure doesn't invent strength or weakness. It shows what was already there. The world acts like a mirror, reflecting back what people bring into it. And when someone finally understands that, their relationship with reality changes forever. They stop seeing life as something happening against them and start seeing it as something happening with them. Obstacles become lessons. Delays become preparation. Uncertainty becomes possibility. That shift in perspective marks a turning point, the moment a person stops just living in the world and starts truly understanding it.